We are live. How's everybody doing? Filling in for Mr. Lobliner tonight because he is coaching the future of America. Is our special friend Mike Robinson. How are you doing, man?
Dude, I'm good. It amazes me. It's spring break here, which it is in a lot of places this week and next week. We're in that phase. But like my son's soccer team is practicing all week. Like they sent out a memo. They were like, "Bro, we don't take breaks." I was like,
that's funny.
So that's a bit, like Mark, man, the hardcore athletes, man, that's what they got to do, man. Show up no matter what. Keep working.
One of the topics we're going to talk about today is that X has been under a cyber attack all day. And on that note, we're not able to go live on X, apparently. Like, we're not live on X right now. So almost nobody is going to view this. It's wild.
It's been the wildest thing to watch today because when they take it down, I think they said like 3 times it kind of like the servers went offline today. And It's funny. I noticed it this morning, one of the first times, because I was trying to scroll and I was like, posts aren't loading. And my Wi-Fi has been a nightmare here off and on for like 2 or 3 months. So I'm like getting pissed at the router. And then an hour late, like I'm ready to call and cancel and sign up for all this new internet and everything. And then of course, an hour later, I find out, oh, X was down. Like, it's crazy, man, because it's the platform now. Like, it is the information source on the planet. And it's wild when something like that goes down.
Internet wise, I run off Starlink because I'm in the country. I fucking love it.
Yeah. Well, I think we're about to switch to Starlink here. And it's funny because this is the thing about Nashville being, having this bent towards the Democrat, liberal, leftist, libtard reality. You got all these people who went and bought Starlink, and now because it's Elon's, they're getting rid of it. And I literally was on today looking, and I can go buy the brand new kit. It's normally like $500 or something for the kit.
Yeah,
for like $150, like a month-old used kit. So I'm about to go pick it up, and
that's wild. And then it's only like $120 a month.
Exactly. And I paid $100 a month for the crap I have now.
So. And I can tell you, I've had like the only time it's actually really, really, really been bad was when we had like the hurricane roll through. Right. And even then, I still had internet.
Yeah.
Like in the hurricane, it was wild. Like I remember because this is not the first time I've lived in the country. I've on and off lived between the country and then like basically the suburbs of different cities. I'm not a big city person, right? But we lived out in Pickens, South Carolina for a while, out in a little cabin right by Table Rock State Park, like in the woods. Like our closest neighbor was the park ranger, like a quarter mile away. That was our closest neighbor, right? And we had a different, like this was before Starlink. So we had a different satellite internet and that shit sucked.
That was like the jump,
something like that.
Period. Nothing else.
And it was like, and if it was cloudy, you didn't get fucking reception. Like it was wild.
It's crazy to think back in the day, living and working in Haiti all those years. I remember back in the day because cell phone towers didn't exist down there. You had to take sat phones and all that stuff if you wanted to communicate. But we always had internet. But it's still actually the case because HughesNet is the primary provider down there. And it's funny to watch the Haitian culture when you're on that version of internet, because from 12 midnight till 4 a.m. it's unlimited bandwidth. So when you're in a quasi-developed area of a third world country like that, and they're operating on that, nobody goes to bed. All the lights are on. Everybody's still functional from 12 p.m. to 4 a.m. so they can get their internet in. It's a wild culture thing.
So, but when the hacking thing happened today, it happened like 30 minutes after I posted this. I thought for sure, I thought I was done. Like I thought they fucking axed me because I wrote this article. Here we go. Hang on. And it's basically the case for public execution of pedophiles, a radical solution to protect society.
Maybe.
So I posted it, and then like 30 minutes later, like it's just blank. I'm like, fuck, man. They just axed my shit right there. Like they were like, "Fuck no." But I'm actually gonna do a video on this and publish it. So I thought it was a pretty well done article with, and the best thing I think about this is there's like, if you take a look at the end, there's tons of legal precedent.
There you go.
Like tons.
Dude, I'm all for it. Listen, I was just talking to a good buddy of mine in South Africa. When was that? I guess that was on Saturday, and we were talking about he runs a monkey sanctuary down there, so we do the animal thing together, and we were talking about right where he lives in Mauritius, they're getting ready to build a big research facility for all these monkeys. And I was talking about the one they're building in Georgia here, so not too far from me or you, either one. And we were talking about it. And he's like, man, and I didn't expect this from him. He's fairly liberal in what I see him say and talk about all the time. He's like, we got to round up the pedophiles and put them in these facilities and do all this testing on them. We got to quit doing this on animals, man. And I was like, that's exactly. I was like, I think most of the planet feels that way, whether it's a hanging a lynching in the public square, whatever you want to turn, the terminology of it. But dude, until we take some drastic steps in that area, it'll never change. I mean, evil's evil. It's always going to exist, but like the normalization of it right now. And I was thinking about this today because the Oscars and that movie Anora that won the best film and all this stuff.
I couldn't even tell you.
Well, we watched it the other day. Okay. And I was more interested this year because I'm friends with particular people in Hollywood, and one of my friends was up for that Oscar. And so we were watching it, but we watched the film because I really hadn't heard much about it. The whole film's basically just prostitution, sex trafficking, this whole thing. But then I went back because I saw the speeches and they're like, we just want to thank all the sex workers and all this stuff. And I'm just like, but we've gotten to a place where we've like culturally normalized these things, as child trafficking. And, that's always the tip of the iceberg. It's always the tip of the iceberg of what's going on. It's just like, I have a monkey here that we rescued. It's taken me 2 years to get this monkey here because when they captured this monkey at the border, he was part of a human trafficking ring. And because Homeland Security and Department of Justice dicked around for the last 4 years and let all this stuff happen in our country, it took them 2 years to qualify a guilty indictment on this individual who was selling children for $20,000 to rich Texans and release this animal to be taken care of. And you start looking at just all these little things that we don't think much about. And underneath that tip of the iceberg concept, right? How much stuff is layered underneath this stuff. And until we start taking the stuff that's that deep down in there and exposing it on the public, which is what Elon's doing with Doge. But here's an interesting thing, whether it's the pedophilia thing, whether it's all this stuff that they're exposing. I was telling somebody the other day, Elon talked to the last couple of days about this deal with Act Blue and how they've realized, this money's tied to this and this person's tied to that. And all this. I said, one of the problems we have in our country right now is because some of those things, while they're extremely unethical, they were probably done through legal channels. So you're not going to see indictments on some of that stuff. You're not going to see, but you have to expose the truth. You have to show it for what it is and let culture run its reality. Because I think at the core, and maybe I'm too optimistic, but whether it's the pedophile thing, whether it's the money laundering thing, whether it's just being scammed by politicians and not being able to trust our government, until you expose that stuff and let the public give the retribution in return, I don't think we see a lot of change because the system was built to uphold this stuff.
Well, I agree with you. Yes and no, a little bit. Like I've said for a while, like our society does not have the balls, basically. It does not have the will to do what needs to be done to protect our children. I mean, because the reality of it is that, I worry that pedo and pedophilia and stuff like that. I worry that this is just like it's becoming like the word Nazi and racist and everything like that. It's so watered down. People are just like, man, like this is basically the disgusting murder of who this child was going to be. Like that's how like my wife explains it. Like, when the person basically in a horrible, evil way killed who this person was going to become. And I just like I've heard all the time, like it's been for decades where it's like, oh, it's they can't do anything about it. They blah blah blah. They got these urges and shit like that. And I think that if we just started like publicly executing pedophiles, I have this strong feeling that a lot of people would get control of their urges.
Wouldn't have so much of an urge.
Yeah, I mean,
you think about it. I think I said this one time when we were on here. I asked my grandpa one time, he just passed away a couple years ago at 90, and I asked him, I was like, when you dealt with things, whether it was an abusive spouse or, situations like this, I asked him, back in the day, what did you do? He goes, all the men in the neighborhood got together and beat the shit out of the dude. Like
Beat the shit out of him
again. And I'm like, I know that's my thing. Like, I just want, like, there are consequences. And here's the problem. Just like the word pedophilia has come into it, we've taken words like murder or any of those terminologies, and we've used them in such a broad sense that the idea of a public execution becomes, you know, we throw the social justice component. Oh, you can't murder someone in public. It's like, it's not murder. And that's just justice. Like, you fuck around, you find out. Like, yeah. You're right. I think the society lacks the balls to deal with it. But at the core, what's hard is I really do believe, this is what I was saying a minute ago. Maybe I am too optimistic about this, but I think at the core, every human's got an understanding of what justice should look like. The problem is that we've grown up in this overly padded, soft world. And listen, I'm going to tell you, a lot of times people will point to a third world. You know, when I lived in Haiti, it is a shithole. Trump is exactly right in the way he's described it. It's a shithole, and yet it's still not archaic, right? It's very little left in these countries where they live in the village, and somebody does something atrocious and they take them out this edge of the village and stone them to death. I mean, there's just not many of those pockets of society left where people understand you will pay the highest of all prices for doing the dumbest of all things or the most evil of all things. And so people are not used to seeing this, you know. That's why they threw a fit last week when homeboy in was it South Carolina got executed by firing squad. You know, like the guys, the first time in 15 years, somebody's been put to death in this country by firing squad, you know, and you can feel how you want about the death penalty and all that. Here's my thing. I'm always double-edged on the death penalty thing, because part of me is like, but see, it all depends on the case. Some of these people need to live the rest of their life in the misery of the shit they created, right? That's the worst punishment. The problem is I don't want my tax dollars paying for that shit. Why should I have to babysit you, stick you in a cell, give you air conditioning and heat and a blanket and free TV and meals for the rest of your life because you did something atrocious? You should just be wiped off, right? So like, but they threw a fit over this guy getting, it's a barbaric. He got shot and killed. It's like, well, he chose it, number one. He petitioned for it. They're going to put him to death anyway. And he's a fucking murderer. Kill him. Like, it just is what it is. Eye for an eye, man.
So the thing about it is, and this is where Mark and I kind of differ. It would be interesting if he was here, but Mark is not necessarily as sold on the death penalty as I am. This is where I've always felt this way, even when I was considered a Democrat, right?
Yeah.
But the problem we have with the death penalty is not used nearly enough or nearly efficiently enough, right? I mean, the people sit on death row for 20 fucking years.
Right. And at now probably $125,000 a year for general care.
Right.
So,
you know, like, I mean,
I don't keeping a murderer alive. Like, what's the point?
It's and like the thing about like, and Florida's now doing this, and I think other states should, but they're putting pedophiles to death, which is great. I mean, it shouldn't take, like, it should be dependent, like, our you know, quick appeals. Like, let's get this through. If you have grounds, let's appeal this. If all your appeals are exhausted and whatever, like, that's another thing too. Our system is just so fucking slow that it's
regulatory bureaucratic bullshit, right?
Yeah,
because
yeah,
our Constitution's very clear. You're due a swift, just, appeal in front of a judicial system, a trial by jury. Right. You should be adjudicated quickly and fairly. And then the execution of said sentence, whatever that sentence is, should also follow the same protocol. Right. And if we just lived by our Constitution instead of bureaucratic regulation, we would be in that space. You know, and I think people forget, you know, when we talk about that, even logistically and governably inside the United States, up until really about World War I, if a politician did something fucky in office, they got literally, I mean, we use the term tarred and feathered, but they were literally taken and humiliated in the public square. Like, you didn't do what you ran on. You didn't do the thing you promised. So we're going to take you out. We're going to publicly humiliate you, let people throw literal shit at you or whatever it is, and expose you. That's kind of how I feel about the Doge thing right now. I'm like, let's bring back the public square in a literal sense.
Well, it should all be super transparent. It's like, we should know everything. Like, you know, on this topic, one thing I find extremely hypocritical is most people that are against the death penalty, not Mark's not a leftist, but most people that are against the death penalty are on the left, right? Or center, like it's one of their centrist ideas and everything like that. Like, I understand that the concept of the death penalty, especially my idea of it, using it more often, is very considered kind of radical. But in our country, like let's say, hang on a second. In our country, right? If you go to jail for a violent felony, right, and you get out, or if you just go to jail for a felony, and you get out, you are not a full citizen, okay? Right. Because you cannot. In most cases, I don't believe you can vote, but also you cannot. You can't exercise. You can't exercise your constitutional right to own a firearm. The argument that people make, because I'm a big believer that if you are a free person, if you are out, if you are out free, if you have been deemed to be safe enough to be free amongst the population, you should be a full citizen.
To society.
Yeah, you've paid your debt. You should be a full citizen with all of your rights, right? If the argument by these people is that these people are too dangerous to ever own a firearm again, why are we against the death penalty? Because it's being shown all throughout the world and in America. If you are worried about somebody being so violent that you're worried about them purchasing a gun, you realize they drove a fucking car to the gun store, right? Like, I mean, how dumb are you? Like, a car is like 2,000. Cars are like 2,000-pound weapons. Right. Like, it's so ridiculous to me how idiotic. Like, we have like no common sense, no logical progression about anything.
You put a new law to advocate for another law and to deal with this exception and all. You know, it's kind of. Again, like the argument when it comes to things like abortion, right? Like this is where I'm the hard line on. I just don't think there's any real reason. I mean, there are very few exceptions, but I just do not support abortion. You know, but what's so funny to me is, again, we've normalized that. But then if I go out and shoot a pregnant woman, I get 2 counts of murder. It's like, well, where's the fucking logic in this stuff? Like, you can't. And this is the entire problem with the system. And I've kind of come to this place watching what we're seeing right now with the exposure of all this stuff behind the scenes. And, you know, like when you start looking at what's happened to Ukraine and our money getting laundered and this bullshit that's happening, of course, even today in the hack, if we really find out that, you know, this hack of, you know, on X was done through the Ukrainians and through the Starlink system and through, you know, I mean, like all this infrastructure that we provided, like you look at it and you start to go, man, I think we just got to blow it up and start over. Like, not the Constitution. I don't have a problem with the Constitution, but everything else that surrounds it, it's not working because too many cross lines.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, like the thing is, one of the most important concepts is being completely ignored. That any law or regulation that is repugnant to the Constitution is void, right? Because very frankly, there are a ton of things that are repugnant to the Constitution that are not considered void. Right. The mere and Republicans are just as guilty of this, but for gun control, back to it one more time.
Right.
For them to even be talking about like, any type of, like, if you're a Republican and you believe in the Second Amendment, if you believe in the Second Amendment, you don't even need to be a Republican. But if you believe in the Second Amendment, you should realize that all gun laws are unconstitutional and not one Republican goes on that. I think Thomas Massey kind of leans that way, but everybody's like, thinks that we should have some regulation and some control. The government should have fuck all control over our gun rights.
Anything.
None. Zero.
Anything.
Zero. Yeah, the government should impact your life extremely in extremely minor ways, and they should all be positive. Yes. Like the government should work. The infrastructure, great. That actually should be a state government thing, by the way, is the infrastructure.
Yes. I totally agree with that.
But by far and away, they should protect our border, provide common defense, and protect our rights from the states encroaching upon them.
Yep.
But instead, we've got. I mean, at one point in time, I saw a statistic where they don't even know how many government agencies there are. Like they don't even know. Like, how the fuck did we grow that much government that we don't even know how many government agencies there are? Well, some of these agencies that they're getting rid of, some of these agencies are fucking wild, man.
Bro,
I mean, it's insane.
I literally, I work very close with U.S. Fish and Wildlife and USDA, and on the smuggling side of all this animal stuff that I do. I was just talking to one of our agents the other day, and he's like, "Oh," but he starts listing like these 2 other arms of agency that oversee, because we were working on a case, And I was like, wait, what the hell agency is that? He goes, oh, it's fairly new in the last 5 years. And I was like, yeah, but why have I never heard of this shit? Like, it literally impacts my life and I don't even know it exists. So they've now got regulations that I don't even know exist, which they still, now I dealt with this again on Sunday at an event in East Tennessee where USDA was there trying to enforce regulation as law. And we basically sent them packing and said, listen, SCOTUS ruled on Chevron deference. You can't do that anymore. So take us to fucking court, but you literally cannot do anything. So overstep your bounds and I'm going to own you and everybody else in your life. So and they backed down, but it still goes back to the pedophile thing. Very few people in this country have the balls to step up and go, I challenge that. Right. Because in reality, the truth is it's going to be hard to fight the system. The system's way bigger and they put more resources to it, but the other part is I do believe wholeheartedly that if as Americans, we step back into a place where we originally came from, which is a place of just absolute balls of the wall courage. And you step up and stare the system in the face and go, fuck off. Like this doesn't work. Eventually it quits. Like it has to, it doesn't have a choice because it cannot rise against there may be 8 million government employees, but there was a cyber attack on X.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. There's 330 million people in this country. I don't care how many people work for the U.S. government, how many people are in the damned army. It doesn't matter. There's still more of us. Yeah. And there's still more of us with firearms than the government.
Well, that's the thing. Like the government, like the people should never be afraid of the government. The government should be afraid of the people.
Right.
And we just have it very, very backwards now. It's extremely lopsided in the wrong direction. Our politicians act like they're like royalty. They all really fucking do, and that's a problem.
When we run around, we don't elect kings. I'm like, well, who the fuck do you think you are? What you're doing and how you're doing it, and what you expect from the people. It's mad.
By the way, this is I wanted to pop this up because this is Elon talking about this actually. So this is Mr. Musk discussing what's going on.
There was a cyber attack on X today, which shut it down and may have been foreign sourced. Yes. It's a big story. You want to give us a moment on that?
Well, we're not sure exactly what happened, but there was a massive cyber attack to try to bring down the X system with IP addresses originating in the Ukraine area.
There was a cyber
So now, just so everybody grasps, that does not necessarily mean it's from the Ukraine area. It truly doesn't. But I'm not. Here's what I could possibly think it is. Could it be our Canuck friends like trying to fuck around because basically I don't know if you saw, but they Trudeau stepped down and they appointed some new WEF guy, some new World Economic Forum guy. Real smart play, guys. Real smart play.
Canada is just fucked.
They're fucked. I want to actually it's a perfect opportunity for me to discuss this too. Let's get to it real quick.
Literally, I'm like, y'all elected Mark Carney. Come on, he's showing up on all these different places, and I look at him and I knew he was in the running, but I'm like, oh my god, they might have actually been better to elect what's her face, that Christina chick.
I know. So just so everybody knows, this is from my account. This is an actual video I made. You can go watch the rest of the video. We're just going to play Doug Ford's portion of it, and then we're probably going to talk about it anyway. But this is Doug Ford from Canada being a fucking idiot.
Family trait.
Apply maximum pressure to maximize our leverage. That's why today we're moving forward with a 25% surcharge on electricity exports. For the 1.5 million American homes and businesses that Ontario powers, homes and businesses in Minnesota, Michigan, and New York. This surcharge will cost families and businesses in these states up to $400,000 each and every single day. On an average, this will add around $100 per month to the bills of hardworking Americans. Let me be clear. I will not hesitate to increase this charge. If necessary, if the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely.
Now, before we even get going, I just wanted to let everybody know that I have no problem.
So, by the way, I'm just going to point out that Mr. Ford doesn't know how to do fucking math, because $400,000 a day from 1.5 million homes for 30 days is $8 fucking dollars.
Yep.
So good. Congratulations on that. My other statement. My other statement on this. Okay, and I have said this many times, and I'm pissing a lot of Canadians off, but I don't have anything against you people. Like, the Canadian people, I feel bad for you guys. You guys have been duped into slavery because you're fucking slaves. Whether you guys realize or not, you are fucking slaves. We're not very far behind you. Just trust on that. But
Right.
you guys are fucking slaves. They tell you what you can't do. They elect a party. They don't even elect a person. They elect a party.
Right.
That is fucking stupid ass. But dear Canada and Doug Ford, I'm actually perfectly fine with them surcharging or tariffing anything they fucking want. Because very frankly, even the surcharge on the electricity, because very frankly, that just gives, and I said this in the video, but that just gives America a little bit more incentive to become energy independent, which we should anyway. We should get to the point where we need to import zero energy. Zero. Now, of course, that alone will destroy Canada. Like, if we become energy independent and stop importing oil and stuff like that from other people, including you will be a third world country in months, right? However,
that's what I try to tell people. I don't care what the land mass is or what the population is, their GDP, they got nothing. They got timber and a little bit of oil. I mean, they just don't have natural resources
and potash.
Right. And this is where I even try to tell people, they get all, we shouldn't be trying to add Canada to the United States. I'm like, we don't gain that much. We gain the safety and security of a larger border area and more land mass, but it's not like outside of a few 100 million acres of timber, what do we really get out of the deal? It's a bunch of fucking retards in government that have to assimilate.
Well, if we would give Saskatchewan and Alberta both statehood, if we would give them statehood, that is like we would be energy independent immediately, and we would also have we would have to no longer import potash at all.
Right,
like those two provinces, which are massively abused by Eastern Canada, like Quebec, and they massively abuse them, and most of the people in those areas are kind of MAGA. They're very freedom people, right?
Yeah, they just took country folk live out in the middle of the woods.
Exactly.
Man. That's just what they are.
If we just made those two states, it would destroy Canada also. And there are a lot of people from those areas that are even talking about it. However, I'm going to point this one other thing out, right? Doug Ford at the very end there talked about how they'll just turn the power off to these homes. I mean this with like the most kind regard to my Canadian friends. Catch your boy, like check him, as fast as you can, because if Canada would do that to America, and especially on short notice, like while people up north are still cold and they just shut the fucking power off, we should consider that an act of war. Come flip that switch right back on and take whatever the fuck we want.
Right.
You do not want that level of fuck around and find out.
Have a commander in chief who would respond in.
Oh, that would absolutely be an act of war. I mean, you're turning the power off to 1.5 million homes of Americans. Not only does that break any trade agreement, like just him speaking about it, even daring to say anything about it, very frankly, is so fucking off-putting. Like, I mean, it's like Canada does not understand. Like, you motherfuckers are like the adult child that lives in our attic that is dependent upon us to pay their fucking bills and provide them protection and a roof over the fucking head. Like, without America, you bitches would be flying somebody else's flag because somebody would have came over and knocked the fuck out of you. I don't give a fuck how tough you guys think you are, mounted police, blah, blah, blah. You are not a world power of a nation. You are not. Still being connected to UK, I got a newsflash for you. They're not a world power either.
Right.
They think they are, and they used to be, but they're a small country that is way fucked up right now. London is basically fallen. Well,
I mean, it doesn't function. Like, this is what you're sitting on the has-been. And again, like you just said a minute ago, we are on a dangerous precipice of almost being there ourselves as a country. And I think, you know, this was the election that is the difference maker. Now, what we do in 4 years is going to be even bigger, in my opinion. But, you know, the reality is that if you step up in Canada, oh, we got the crown behind us, and the fuck cares? What is King Charles going to do for you? Nothing. Not a damn thing. You know, it's like, and I mean, good God, the British Parliament can't function. The EU can't function. And it is as proven by what happened with Ukraine over these last couple of weeks. You know, Zelensky gets over here, fucks it up in the Oval Office, goes crying to Ukraine and or to the EU, and the EU promises all this shit, and then goes, "Yeah, we can't do it unless America goes with us. If America doesn't do it with us, we can't do it." And then so no deal. And I'm like, guys, hello. Like, pay attention, quit, you know, these libtards out there. But, you know, I had a really good example today of how fucking retarded people really are. Okay. So Facebook gives you, you know, every once in a while you're in your feed and they feed you this shit that you obviously don't want. I don't know why the hell that algorithm does that. Right. So I get fed this group of basically Trump haters. And I'm like, do y'all see anything I put online? Like, why are you sending me this? It was a picture of Trump and Ivanka, and then their three kids, right? And then they list when Eric was born, when Junior was born, and so on. And you read the comments under the post, they're like, "Oh, now that he's getting rid of birthright citizenship, you know, they should start by deporting his kids and then his wife." Okay, the picture's from fucking like 1994. Okay, number one. Number two, you read the comments, and the first sets of comments are all like, he couldn't have been born in 1981. He's like 80 years old. I'm like, Don Jr., you fucking retards. Like, did you read anything? Can you see the photo? Do you not? Like, are you that fucking retarded? So I finally, I'm like, you know what? You fed me the post. You set it up. You say you spiked the ball. I'm going for it. You know, like, so I was like, this is the biggest bunch of fucking retards I've ever seen in my life. I was like, first of all, nobody can read. And I was like, obviously we're talking about Don Jr. here, not senior. And I was like, this is not working. And I said, and his kids didn't get birthright fucking citizenship. Their dad was a citizen. So they're just citizens. That's just no two ways about it. And I said, and good luck deporting his ex-wife because she's dead. You fucking retards. Like, I literally, but it was the perfect example of how deeply disconnected people are from actual facts, actual truth, from even being able to read a social media post that was like 4 sentences and process the data just enough to go, "Oh, I hate his kids too." Like the comment, they wouldn't have surprised me. Like, "Oh, I hate his kids too." Like, okay, now at least you read the post, but you didn't even read the post. You saw deport and birthright citizenship, and you assumed all the rest of the information was completely inaccurate without any facts. And I'm like, that is a perfect example of the shit that has eroded underneath. And you know, for the longest time, and I think Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, you know, some of the older politicians that are just fucking with the system, they know what they're doing. They're playing their own really bad game of 4D chess, right? They know they're manipulating things. The really scary shit to me is that the AOCs and the Jasmine Crockett's and all this new wave of quote millennial Gen X, whatever the fuck generation they're in, literally don't know. Like, they are those people from that Facebook post, and they got propped up as a puppet, stuck in office, and they literally don't fucking know. And I just step back and I'm like, it's just absolutely unbelievable to me, but it is a picture. And I'm like, that's the stuff. Like, this is where, despite where they went way on their differences, of course, I love the fact that Vivek is running in Ohio for governor because they desperately need a better leadership. And that whole state needs a turnaround. It's a shithole state, in my opinion. I still can't believe it holds as much influence politically in our country as it does, because it is just a shithole state, with the exception of a couple of cities that happen to function. You know, it's like, but like what Vivek always said, the meritocracy, just pass a fucking civics test to get out of high school. Like, the basic things you have to know to function as a citizen of our country, you know? And I don't know, man, that's the stuff that just drives me crazy. I'm like, the ability to have common sense and slow down for a minute and just know what the hell's coming out of your mouth. It doesn't exist at the core. It's just,
well, it doesn't. Our society has, like, and this gets kind of like conspiracy theorist deep a little bit, I guess. But like, what I think people need to understand is that like our entire culture has been crafted in a directed fashion.
Like conspiracy theory. It was the Marxist plan to begin with. It was hatched literally, I think, at World War I, when we got into globalist.
If you look at it though, the last 50 years, and I always equate it to this. Like in the last 50 years, like it used to be in Hollywood, somebody would, there'd be a star, they'd age out a little bit, and then they were an actor, right?
Right.
About 40 or 50 years ago, the people that entered Hollywood, the young people that entered Hollywood, the Robert De Niro's, the Steve Martins, the people like this, right? Tom Hanks, those people, the people that entered Hollywood about 40 or 50 years ago. They were the first wave of celebrities that didn't change. Right. They actually, instead of being cycled out, they basically started taking over Hollywood. They upcycled. They became the producers. They became this. They became that. Well, the problem with this is that most of these people are fucking deviants.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about people that would do just about anything to be famous and have done just about anything to be famous. Like it's like this weird concept that we trust them. There's a lot of evidence to show that a lot of these people are CIA operatives too. Like they actually plant information. If you take a very strong look at the messages there's a reason why they're all vocally one way, right? Like, are you telling me that all of these action heroes, like the guys that work out and shit like that, they're in Hollywood? You're telling me that they're leftists? Like you're telling me that Jason Statham is a leftist? I'm not buying that. Right. You're telling me that, like, we know that not Schwarzenegger. We know that fucking Stallone is on the right. He's been very open about it. Right. It's just been like these people did not leave for a reason. Like I believe that they were propped up in order to not leave, because then they're able to form like opinion and culture.
Well, they draw people over a period of time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because again, you built a society that's not based on knowledge; it's based on feelings, right?
Yep.
So, and when you do that, and you put somebody who emotionally pulls people into their story, their career, their life in a certain way, and then they start to talk about it. Like a great example to me, because I'm actually friends with her, Melissa Gilbert from Little House on the Prairie. I'm friends with Melissa. She is absolutely that person, though. She opens her mouth, it is Slava Ukraine, fuck Trump, fuck Elon, but the problem is that her functional life doesn't reflect the things that come out of her mouth. Now, I don't we're not like best friends or anything. We're just friends. Like we're just acquaintances. We're just friends. And listen, we can disagree. I can still be kind and cordial and be your friend. I get nothing from her. I get no benefit from being her friend. Just happen to be her friend. That's it. But it is funny because I'll say to my husband 15 times a month that we'll interact online, or I'll see her post something. I'm like, right now, I just want to pick up the phone and call her and go, fuck you, lady. Like, really? Like, you know better. And I know you know better. But then it's like, I also don't know for sure what is that behind the scenes, but it's obvious it's there. I don't think it's conspiracy theory. I think they're very much given those marching orders. Like, you want to continue to be this person. You want to continue to be relevant. You want to continue to make money and have power and have control and have all these things. Then these are the things you have to, bend to or say or become, or you're out. Because the ones who didn't play the game, i.e. Mel Gibson, look where he's at today.
Right.
When I was in high school and college 20, 30 years ago, Mel was as big as you got. Mel was, he was the man's man. He was the alpha. He was the new replacement for Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and those guys, right? Because they were going to age out, and you had to have somebody until we put all the soy boys in to be the action heroes, So you had Mel, and Mel is it's not that people don't know him or respect him for his career, but they don't care anymore. He's not relevant to the masses any longer because he quit cucking to the narrative and playing the game the way they want to.
Yeah, they tried to paint him as anti-Semitic years ago, right?
I just laugh at that. I'm like, y'all obviously aren't paying attention. He didn't make Passion of the Christ to get rich. You know, like it happened to work for him. But if you were an anti-Semite, like you're not making movies about a Jewish dude. Like it's just not going to happen. It's like, and not making the Jewish guy the hero of the story.
You know, the wild thing I find about that is like, you know, they've used basically mainstream media and Hollywood to control a narrative. Like, notice how they were all in lockstep. I always point out, like, obviously, I talk about the COVID pandemic a lot because one, I'm writing a book about it.
Yeah,
it's not titled "I Told You So," but that's basically
it's
basically what it should. I didn't want it to be so egregiously braggadocious.
I got a title. I fucking told you. That's it. That's all.
Yeah. It's actually, the title is "It Was Never About Your Health." So like, you know, that sort of thing. But if you take a look back at it, like I remember like the way COVID like went down for me is like 5 years ago, right about now, right? We were on a cruise, right? And on the 13th, I got a whole bunch of messages talking about curfews and everything like that. And I made a fucking remark like, the government's not my mom, fuck a curfew. Right. It's a cold, wash your hands, blah, 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 right? And they started canceling me, right? But we get back, right? And we're sitting and listening to this shit, right? It was so immediately coordinated. Like immediately, I remember we turned on our one TV, the one big screen we have is a Roku TV, right?
Yeah.
So if you turned it on, like the day we got back, the day we were one of the last cruise ships to be let back into the country, right? Which was a scary fucking prospect because like I thought we were gonna get stuck out there.
Right.
But the you know, the day we got back, right? These motherfuckers already have safer at home,
right?
Like at the bottom, like
you don't pull off a marketing campaign overnight.
Yeah, they had so many graphics, and the talking points were so coordinated immediately. Not just from one, it wasn't just on Roku. Roku mirrored MSNBC, which mirrored CNN, which mirrored Fox, which mirrored ABC, NBC, CBS, which mirrored Facebook, Instagram, which mirrored like YouTube. Like YouTube fucking immediately had new terms of, like, not terms of service, but they had new standards of what they were accepting and not accepting. Like they didn't tell anybody, but like you couldn't say that COVID, like you couldn't even hint that COVID wasn't some planet killer, right? I mean, shit, they basically deleted anybody that reshared Dr. Johnny Ioannidis, who is the most cited public health scientist in the fucking world. He's at the time, he was the most cited ever public health scientist, and they would not let you share his fucking words, right? So to me, I'm just like, this is all narrative control. Like they're able to silence any opposition. That's when I knew it was fucked, right? But it's just goes to show, and this is one of the reasons why we're in so much of a better position right now, because between legacy media, which has told you what it is, not you, but has told the viewers out there what to believe for 40 fucking years. You have allowed these people who are paid by people like Pfizer and stuff like that to tell you what it is. It's like the whole concept of trusting your doctor. Does everybody realize that you shouldn't trust your doctor? Your doctor should prove that you can trust them.
It's like, do you know, this is an interesting thing. I don't know that I ever brought this up on a show, but I've shared this online a few times. When I was working with the sanctuary in Los Angeles, we had 33 chimpanzees at that sanctuary. The vast majority of those came from NIH. They came from the AIDS, HIV.
They weren't the ones getting the sex changes.
No. This was pre-sex change days. This was just targeting the gay community with HIV/AIDS, right?
Gotcha.
So, but on our advisory team was Dr. Weitzcarver, who was Fauci before Fauci.
Yeah.
Right. Like he held that position. Then he was Fauci's boss, and he oversaw. He was the director of the HIV/AIDS research program.
Mm-hmm.
I still question this day because I got to know Dr. Weitzcarver. I liked him, and I liked him because he's the one who got the animals out of the deal. Because here's what he admitted: the gain of function testing all of the things they were doing with the HIV/AIDS crisis period of time, none of that was effectively translating from chimpanzees to humans in any form or fashion whatsoever. He's the one who knew AZT was killing AIDS patients, right? And he kept getting overridden by Fauci, right? So, I mean, Fauci's crimes go back so far, it's unbelievable. This 2014 just applies to the Ukraine bullshit, it doesn't take too long for somebody to actually dig and find the shit out. But I remember that was actually for me because I was working with him during the pandemic when we're in this battle to save this sanctuary, and PETA still won their shit. But, I remember him saying so many times to me, this didn't work. That was false. We created this narrative. We had to justify what we were doing with the animals. We had to justify the medications. We were dealing with the pharmaceutical companies, all this stuff. And I remember sitting there going, here's a nearly 90-year-old man whose entire career was built on this entire thing. And he at least got to, this is why I choose to respect him, because he had the balls to look me in the eyeballs and say I was dead wrong and we did everything wrong and we hurt people, we killed people. Yeah. And he never got a chance to say it publicly to this point. It's not ever been said out loud, but he did say it. He had the balls to sit in a room with me and a bunch of very wealthy individuals and bring it up. But I remember it was dead in the middle of the pandemic. And I was like, fuck, like we are so screwed right now because they let the AIDS pandemic kill millions of people. And they still, I know they can fix this shit and they still aren't fixing it. So what are we fixing right now? Right. And then that just tells you, because that's what I think that was for me. Like I grew up conservative, Republican, all that stuff. I was taught to question the system. But as I got older, you try to move into your own space and like become your person. And I kind of moved very much the middle. I probably was much like you and Mark. And I would have been really more of a Democrat than a Republican at that point. That was the thing that moved the needle over to me because I went, I've chosen to trust some of the system, and I'm finding out there's nothing to trust. Like they are fucking using. We're the lab animals. Fuck the animals. We're the lab animals. This country is a giant fucking laboratory of fuck around and find out, and we're the ones paying the price, literally in many ways.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, an article I posted today is that like the healthcare system is literally not even. They're committing malpractice almost every day. Like,
well, the Ozempic thing right now is just unfucking believable to me.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
Like,
but even beyond
on this shit through Medicaid,
even beyond that, right? So we just went through a little phase where like there are doctors out there right now, and if you're one of these doctors out there right now, I just want to let you know you're a piece of shit. But there are doctors out there right now that will not discuss a person's weight with them, even if they weigh 400 pounds. They think it's bad for their mental health. That's malpractice. Like every time that patient walks in, you absolutely are obligated.
Violating your oath.
Yeah, you are obligated by your oath to tell them they should lose weight and how to do so. The problem is most doctors don't know how to do so. Shit, 40% of my clientele for my weight loss coaching is from the medical profession, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's this crazy bullshit like that we should somehow take their word for it. And then people
paid off, and so the schools are paid off. These guys are getting trained by the pharmaceutical companies.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're getting trained by Rockefeller Health. Yeah.
The problem with our whole educational system, it's like the insulin resistance thing. It's like you don't fucking need medicine for that. Do some fucking intermittent fasting and you'll fix your insulin resistance in about 3 months. Like you don't have to do much. Like skip a fucking meal. Like it's not hard. Like just tell your body to chill out for a minute. And
the wild thing about diabetes and stuff like that, because we're kind of in my wheelhouse right now.
Yeah.
But doctors really do not tell people how dangerous it is.
Right.
They truly don't. Like if it's wild how diabetes has just gotten to be like, oh, they got the beatus. They got the beatus, you know.
Go back to the 80s, the commercials. I got the diabetes.
I got the diabetes. Like, no, fuck, dude. You look like you're about to fucking explode. That's why you got the diabetes. Like, no shit, you got the diabetes. I'd be fucking shocked if you didn't have the diabetes.
Blueberry at Willy Wonka's factory. Like, what the fuck happened, bro?
Right. And it's like this. It's this wild bullshit where they don't like they just put them on metformin, and then if they have to go on insulin also, even better, because that's more money they get to bill.
Right.
They see these people all the fucking time. They see these people monthly almost. They see them all the fucking time. So they get the money on the office visits. That's the return customer. They want you to be sick, right?
Right.
And I will say this a million times. And again, one more time, doctors get very pissed off when I say this, but doctors are not qualified to treat metabolic disorder. They are absolutely not qualified for it. They have, like, if you are not trained in nutrition, you are not trained to treat metabolic disorder.
Well, because modern medicine was told you can't take a holistic approach. They're literally taught in school. You cannot, it is not ethical to take a holistic approach. I'm like, we know, we go down the rabbit hole of all the shit.
Rockefeller. Yeah. Rockefeller in the 1920s switched it over, right?
He killed it, but it's like, you got a brain. So you sold your soul somewhere, because you cannot study the human body, physiology of the human body, and know the processes that occur within the body. Dude, just basic fucking biology. Again, I was pre-med, started med school. Like, you can't know that stuff and not pause for a second and go, this shit's wrong. Like, there's no way that's right. You don't create a magic pill that changes the fucking function of the mitochondria and the genome of the body. Like, if you do that, you fuck it up, and you know that. Like, you cannot break a natural biology and insert artificial, and it turns out okay. It never works. Never works.
Well, the wild thing is they don't even focus on on the natural, like, treatments for it anyway, because like, okay, like insulin resistance, right? Insulin resistance, just like you said, you can obviously do some fasting. In about 90% of the cases, from what I've read, most cases of type 2 diabetes are either reversible, manageable, or mitigatable by lifestyle choices. Like, once you got the betas, you shouldn't be eating processed sugar. You should be staying away from processed carbohydrates because you're insulin resistant. And every time you eat something like that, it should be considered self-harm. I make that argument. They're not told this, right? Not only are they not told it by their doctor, but then you have mainstream media and even Hollywood just kind of like propping it up and saying like, take this medicine, take this medicine. You know, it's insane to me. I once had an attending endocrinologist as one of my clients, helped her lose like 120 pounds, by the way. And she killed it, right? Wild that she's an attending endocrinologist and couldn't lose weight until she came to my wife and I.
An endocrinologist of all.
Yeah,
things.
she's an endocrinologist. She wasn't just an intern. She wasn't an intern. She was an attending endocrinologist.
Like, of all people, that's a person that should actually know how to fix it.
I was the first person to even mention to this attending endocrinologist the word berberine. The first person. She had never heard it before. She had never even, it had never been discussed with her before. And for those of you that are out there that don't know, berberine is a natural compound that literally outperforms metformin in many dozens of human clinical trials. Like, outperforms it. No, the side effect profile is there's almost no side effect profile on it. Besides the like 1 out of every like fucking 100,000 people that gets a little stomach discomfort.
Yeah.
But for metformin, like, most people get so sore, like the muscle soreness makes it so they can barely fucking function, right? But I was the first person to mention to her. She's an attending endocrinologist, right? And granted, she started using this for a patient. She was a good person. She was like, hey, before I put you on this prescription, why don't you try this first? And produced wildly good results with her patients, from what she told me. But that's the point. Like, even the doctors don't know how to keep themselves healthy. Look, for fuck's sake, just go into a hospital and look at the nurses and the doctors.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Just look at the people that walk in the room and help you. Like that. I'll say this. I'm always conflicted because, I have this lifelong genetic liver disorder. So every few years I deal with a pretty severe run of it. And I'm always at Vanderbilt University. And I have what's considered, and he does a good job. I have to give him all credit. He's done a great job. He never puts me on ridiculous medications, nothing. He tries to treat it. He's a good doctor. Like, I really believe that. But every time I'm in there, and because I have a case that only about 6,100 people on the planet have ever been diagnosed with, I'm a lab rat when I go in the hospital. So
Right.
whether it's the students or the attending or whomever, or they've flown people in from other parts of the country and the world to observe me for a week when I've been in the hospital and stuff like that. And but one of the things that's just really interesting to me is paying attention to who walks in the room with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the last time I went through this bout of it, I talked to a couple of the medical students, and I was like, I will tell you right now, I learned myself through process, even some of the basic medications, which I don't necessarily think they're that bad. Like there are certain medications they put me on that aren't metabolically harmful long term. They're discomforting at the time, but I've realized I can actually do it without that thing, right? And so I told them this last time. I was like, it actually caused it to take a little longer, but my body did a better job of resolving the issues. And I took some holistic approaches like that because I deal with the pancreas and liver issues, and I get jaundice and turn, Bart Simpson orange and all that kind of stuff. So this put me on the cholesterol. Oh, it's hell. Oh God, it's hell. They always put you on rifampin, which then turns you a little more orange anyway because of the medication. Now rifampin, the only thing that problem is it's an antibiotic that causes you to be more resistant to antibiotics down the road if you really need them. And I just don't like taking it. Right. And I also don't like pissing neon orange for 2 months because that's what happens. You piss Kool-Aid, basically. It's horrible. Right. This is a whole thing. But they put you on cholestyramine, which is basically like drinking chalk, and it binds the bile acids. And it does work. It really does work. And it doesn't, best I can tell from my research and having lived this out for well over a couple of decades now, like it has no long-term lasting problem for me. It just sucks to take it. But I realized, you know what? If I just get in the sauna for 30 minutes every day, I'm expelling those same bile salts naturally through my body, as opposed to binding them with a chalky substance and having to pass them through my GI tract. And so my body works for itself in a more natural way, and I have less discomfort and less, certain things. But that's the problem. They're not taught that. No one ever suggests that to me. That was something that I was like, you know what? I know this stuff comes out when I sweat. I could take an Epsom salt bath and my bath water turns orange. So it's coming out of my skin.
Damn.
So maybe I just need to sweat this shit out. Like, it's not comfortable, because when you're jaundiced and you get hot, you itch like hell. It's the most uncomfortable, horrible thing in the world. But you know what? I can deal with 30 minutes of that if it means I heal my body faster, right? Yeah. But they're, again, that's what you're saying, is like they're not taught those things. Like, the insulin resistance, people don't even understand this shit. Like, insulin resistance is not an actual problem. It's a natural response of the body when you're overstimulating the body with too much sugar and too much processing of fats and foods and everything, because you never take a fucking break and never let your body chill for a minute. That's all that is. Insulin resistance is not, it's a natural response of the body. So the natural response has to be met with a natural reaction, which is calm down for a minute. Like, just slow down for me. You don't need to eat every two minutes your whole life. You don't need to snack every 2 hours. It's that simple. But that's the stuff, is that because we built a whole society on feelings, then our health and our food is built on feelings. And it's like, you know what? You're going to get sick. You're going to get hurt. You're going to hurt. You're going to feel pain and discomfort. Like, you're a fucking living thing. Like, you don't escape that shit. But when we give you the Band-Aid to escape it, then you don't know what to do when it happens. And like, my grandmother has always been the greatest example to me, because she had a family physician who genuinely, and I think he was the uneducated and overly pharmaceutically educated type, generally has been a good friend to the family. But I mean, every time she turned around, he'd popping pills. For 20 years after her back surgery, she was addicted to hydrocodone to the day she died. To the point, I mean, literally like 30, 40 milligrams a day. I'm talking like,
Jesus Christ.
Okay. So like the dangerous level that if she stopped taking them, she could die because of what the physical response in her body. Right. Like,
right.
But metformin, because she was overweight. So she always struggled with diabetes. She was on statins. She was on all the things that your body does not fucking need. And I watched her when I was in junior high school go choosing a cleaner diet and intermittent fasting before people thought intermittent fasting. It was the only time in my life my grandmother was not overweight and was not chronically sick. Right.
It's all lifestyle, man. It's
And
it is just all lifestyle.
I just say, like, I'm constantly trying to get myself, like, I've never had 6-pack abs in my entire life. I'm getting close. I'm slowly getting there right now. But the key right now is literally, it's just the diet. It's the lifestyle of it. It's just letting my body be my body. It's not trying to overdo it one way or the other. It's getting just exactly what I need and not too much. And my body's responding positively to those things, right? So that's the stuff people just don't realize. But it is changing habits. It's a mindset. It's a habit.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. So, you said something that, and this helps drive home the point, by the way, where I'm saying, like, and I say to everybody, don't trust your doctor. You should not trust your doctor. Your doctor should be able to explain it to you and convince you. Right. You like, just blind trust in your doctor is really fucking stupid, especially in today's world. If you're placing blind trust in a 300-pound dude that clearly has diabetes and shit like that about your health, if you're just putting blind trust in him, I'm sorry, you're a fucking moron.
Right.
You're absolutely stupid. But then there's also the fact that, just as Michael and I have been talking here, the healthcare industry is absolutely not about your fucking health.
Right.
They want the actual money. Look at this.
Right.
This is from Dr. Asim Malhotra, excuse me. And this is breaking, but new systemic review of drug trials, including statins by the BMJ, reveals no reduction in heart attacks or death from lowering LDL cholesterol. So there's no reason for fucking statins at all.
Well, it's funny. I had this discussion last night with Cameron. We're having dinner. You got these great steaks that we had for dinner, right? And so he's trimming it. He's not one to eat the fat and the gristle. Like, I'm Southern, so give me all your fat and gristles off your steak. I love it, right? Like, that's where all the flavor's at anyway. But, like, it's so funny because we did have the discussion. He's like, you can't eat too much of that. I was like, I can't eat enough of it. Like, I don't think you understand. You don't get fat from eating the fat and gristle. You don't get fat from eating a dozen eggs. You don't get fat from, like, of course you could always gorge yourself on anything and get fat. Yes, there's a truth to that. Too many calories means too much energy that you can't expel, so your body stores it. But I was like, but here's the thing, I don't eat like that. So you could bring me a 20-ounce steak that's 14 ounces of just pure fat. It doesn't matter. Like, as a matter of fact, it's actually going to benefit me tomorrow because I'm going to have a great bowel movement because I eat that much fat. My body's going to get rid of it quickly. Like, it's not going to suck it up and store it as fat. Like,
but also the thing about it is, dude, is, I mean, it's not even like they have somehow made it seem like it's unhealthy to eat it, which is wild. I mean, that's another thing that they've lied about. Like, dude, it's so hard for me because obviously, like, I'm like very self-actualized. If I was just standing on the corner, dressed how I'm normally dressed anyway, jeans, boots, I normally have at least 2 knives on me because I live in the country, wear a t-shirt, tattoos, bald head. Like, I understand people just automatically assume stupid. Like, I get it. I actually use it to my advantage quite often.
Sure.
But if one more person tells me that eggs are bad for them or that beef is bad for them, I don't understand you people. Like, it's so wild. Like, I have people that, like, and don't get me wrong, I'm on TRT now, but people have accused me of being on steroids, like blasting steroids for fucking a decade, literally, right? And it's basically because they're in an automatic admission of, that I am physically superior to them.
Right.
I know people don't like hearing that, but if I say something and your very, very first response is to say, okay, steroids, you are obviously Myron. Okay. Right. Like you're obviously like saying, like, there's something about me that is physically more impressive than there's something about you. Right. And to automatically like say like, well, that's not healthy. In like, this is another thing too. Like, it is almost impossible for men to get on TRT, and it is viewed as being unhealthy to be on TRT. It is unhealthy for men in their 50s with testosterone levels below 500 to not be on TRT.
Exactly.
Like, this is how, like, the cutoff should be 500. The actual range should be 500 to 1200, believe it or not.
Right.
Like, that is the healthy range, 500 to 1200. If you are a man and your testosterone levels drop below 500, you are already having very serious quality of life issues, very serious, and that need to be rectified, right? And the medical profession will try everything they can. I have got multiple male clients that have been trying to get on TRT for so long. I got one guy that's 340 some fucking pounds, right? And he's like, I can't lose weight. I can't lose weight. He's got gynomastia. Like you can see he's just totally estrogenic, puffy, everything, right? Yep. Emotional, you name it. Gets his T levels checked. They're 340, right?
You wonder, like
the doctor won't prescribe him TRT.
No, because they say now they want you down at like 200 before they'll even consider it. And I'm like, that's almost its own death sentence, because by then you've got a heart disease and shit going on.
Yeah, you've
like,
got all sorts of fucking problems. All sorts of fucking problems. And that's the issue that we're running into. It's just like this, it is just this wild like take on what is and what isn't healthy that has been totally bastardized and manipulated by legacy media, mainstream media, Hollywood, everything like that. It's completely...
Well, again, they've taken things like anabolic steroids and they lump TRT into that category. It's like, no. Testosterone is a naturally occurring hormone that you do have, and we could get in deep on that. I do think systemically our food systems and everything are a big culprit in why we have problems with that in this country. But I also just think that we don't work. Like that's the other part, is people are not in a lifestyle. We are not an agricultural, industrial society anymore. We are a technology-driven society. So therefore, without being an active person, and when your food supply is messed up, culture has set us up for your body to naturally lose its edge, right? Like, so exactly. But again, TRT as a whole is not. It's not a harmful substance. Yes, like anything, you could overdo it, but like,
of course,
it is not a harmful substance. You could take 200 milligrams a week for the rest of your life, and you're only going to get a benefit from it. You know, it's like not,
absolutely.
Like that's only going to help you. It is only good for you. You know, but they've lumped it into you're going to shoot yourself in the ass with some testosterone. You must be doing, you know, Tren or some other weird anabolic shit that's going to fuck your heart up and cause weird deformities in your body and vascular issues and all this stuff. It's like, because they scheduled it and they put it out there. And that's the other thing. Like, this is what's so funny to me, because you look at the UK and that's probably one of the most low T societies on the planet, in my opinion. But I can walk into any pharmacy in the UK and buy testosterone over the counter. I don't need a prescription. So,
well, I argue that the government should be able to tell us what we can and can't use either. I argue that,
right? Like, let dipshit shoot up Tren at 500 milligrams a week and fuck his heart up and die at 33 of a heart attack. Like, it's your choice. It's a personal choice. Like, you should have autonomy. I don't think it's good. You should be educated, but that's your choice. You know, it's like, I'm with you, but it is crazy because we've scheduled these. It's just the ivermectin discussion, right? Like, now, the funny thing is they talk about you can't buy it over the counter in the United States, in most states, but the truth is you can buy it over the counter. You can walk into Tractor Supply and buy it any time of the day or night. It's called horse paste, which is how they were able to manipulate without, quote unquote, being inaccurate by putting it online. And so if I can't get the stuff where I normally keep my ivermectin and fenbendazole stocked here in the house, and again, I work with animals, it's really easy for me to get some of that stuff if I need to, but the truth is I use it too. Like, I work with animals very up close and personal. I take ivermectin and fenbendazole once a month, no matter what, because I'm exposed to stuff most people are not exposed to on a regular basis, right? So, but I know actually that there are certain benefits of those medications that are not harmful to me. Again, everything can be overdosed and abused, but they're not harmful to me. They're not causing a long-term problem for me, right? And if anything, I'm getting a benefit. I literally think that I will. And I say this, knock on wood, you know, I'm going to say actually there's certain things you probably shouldn't say out loud because you're playing with fire, gambling. But like, I genuinely have a deep core belief I will not die of cancer simply because I have a habit of once a month taking those two medications that stop certain processes in my body from being susceptible to the things that cancer does to my body. Do they cure cancer? I don't know. We don't have definitive peer-reviewed studies and clinical things that can tell us the answer to that, but we do know things that those medications do have a beneficial effect on everything that cancer medications don't do.
Right, but and wild enough, and we're going to wrap it up because I want to go hang with the wife, and I know you want to go hang with the husband, but to wrap that up though, it's wild that we don't have that data because we should.
Yes, and Nobel, like a Nobel Prize winning #1 medication ever created on the fucking planet next to penicillin, and we don't have any of that.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, here's my thing, especially because the government from our taxes pays for a lot of research. Our tax dollars should not go to research on any fucking drugs.
Well,
like any
conspiracy theory is we have all that research and study. It's just locked in a vault somewhere. And
our money should go towards very cheap, natural, if possible, remedies. What works from nature, and like the whole concept that like natural remedies don't work. That is a Rockefeller med school bullshit thing. That
was
100%.
The industrialization of America for enriching the elite. That's all that was. Because if you can grow this herb in your backyard and drink that tea, and again, I go back to study the centenarians in places like Japan, where they still operate on it. And you look at the #1 food source of most of those people that live past 100 is the purple sweet potato, because the antioxidants that are present in that, and because of what it does to your natural processes of cell regeneration in your body. And it's a fucking potato.
Yeah, no shit. That's wild.
And they eat mostly vegetables, right? Like they put a good protein source with high fiber vegetables. They fill up. They can eat a massive amount of food and still only consume 500 calories. Again, all common sense stuff that were infiltrated. Like, I'll tell you, Alan, one of the things that I did, I don't drink whey protein anymore, which is I mix it into some things that I make on the side. I don't take it as a drink anymore. I don't take it as something.
I don't either.
I don't need the calories, and I'm naturally taking in the protein sources from other places. But I was the type. I grew up with a dad who was semi-pro bodybuilder. I grew up around it, and there's a lot of good to it. And Mark would shoot me for saying this on this broadcast. But the thing is like, for me personally, some people need it, so it's not like I have a problem with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just don't need it, and I didn't realize that until about 6 months ago when I came away from it, and I went, "Holy crap! I don't need it. My body doesn't fall apart when I'm not taking that supplement or that thing into my body." But again, we're all different, but that's the holistic approach. There's not a pill for everybody. There's not a solution for everybody.
Exactly.
You know your body.
Exactly. So everybody, thank you very much for the people that are watching. And this will probably be posted to X, because it's not on X right now, but it'll be posted to X later on. So thank you for watching, but also, Michael, thank you for joining us. We got to have you back real soon. Mark ought to be back tomorrow night, so it'll be me and Mark and maybe somebody else. I don't know, but I hope to see you all then. And thank you very much. Go follow Mike Robinson at Michael Robinson everywhere.
You got it.
So thank you very much, dude. And we are out.
Peace, bro. Have a good night.
Peace.
The Holy Trinity Bundle isn't just about weight loss. It's about empowering you to find your healthiest, happiest self. Let's talk about what's in the bundle and how it caters specifically to our needs. First, we got Ember, which is not just any fat burner. It's also going to boost your mood, your energy levels, while also suppressing your appetite. And if you're worried about it being too strong, you can split the tablet in half to tailor its impact. Next, we have Alchemy NCT, which turns the carbs that you eat into energy and not fat. Yes, energy, not fat. This is our way of making sure that the meals that you eat contribute positively to your weight loss journey. And girls, we all know that we want that. And finally, No Morbidity. This one's my favorite because it works while you sleep. It burns fat and controls those nighttime cravings without any stimulants, so you wake up feeling refreshed. Try it out and feel the genuine difference. Here's to new beginnings and real results.